feature of looking at poetry is thinking about the term phonology, and in very basic terms that simply means how sounds are used within a text. Now that idea of sound being important is particularly apt when looking at poetry because of poetry's links to music, links to rhythm, and this term phonology can be broken down into a number of sort of subsections when we're thinking about sounds. One of those is alliteration, which is an umbrella term which simply means how sounds would be repeated within a poem or a line, fairly close together, not necessarily right next to each other, but fairly close together. And in turn, that term can be broken down into three forms or units of sound, one being consonants, one being sibilants, and one being assonants. Okay? And a really sophisticated A star response might reflect on how sounds within quotes contribute to their meaning. Is not something that you would necessarily go for straight away as the most important thing about a quote, but it would be seen as that high tier add-on really when you're analysing a particular quotation. All of these examples come from Owen Shears's poem, which is called Mamet's Wood. And the first quote that I've listed here is the broken bird's egg. So broken bird's egg. We would refer to this as consonants because it is repeating the hard consonant sound of the B, which in turn can be deemed a plosive. It's one of those harsh consonant sounds where you close the airway and push air through. So broken bird's egg. Now, as a reader, I might think about the aggression, the violence perhaps even of that image, which is accentuated through the use of that harsh plosive consonant sound. So the use of consonants is actually adding to our understanding of how violent and brutal the First World War was when the poet discovers and looks at these shattered remains. So the use of sound is contributing to that powerful metaphorical image there of the violence of war. If I look down at the second example, the china plate of a shoulder blade. Now that is more assonant in its quality, and I picked out the repetition of the vowel sound A in the word plate and blade. And thinking about that, I might feel that the writer in that phrase is using sound to contribute to the vulnerability, perhaps, of these soldiers, these very young men who went into war, and indeed the soft, assonant qualities of the sound contribute to this idea of their bones being very fragile, very tender, could break apart at any moment. So the fragility of these young men is emphasised perhaps, I would always be tentative when I'm talking about phonology, through that use of the assonants. The last example is what we would call sibilants, which is a consonant sound, but it's a softer consonant sound, S, so it's given its own term. Sibilants can be important. In this instance, slipped from their absent tongues. I think the soft quality, the sibilant quality of that line with the repeated S sounds emphasises the voices of these soldiers that have slipped away. The absent tongues, that almost rasping, hissing, soft quality might emulate perhaps even their last breath as these men died, now rediscovered by Shears and put into a poem to try and resurrect those voices that perhaps have fallen away and become silent. So there you have it, three aspects of alliteration, and indeed alliteration is a part of phonology that the A star grade student may pick up on, always tentatively, when they are looking at a quotation.